Now, I love watching everyday carry videos, what's in my pocket videos, hearing about the things that people deem to be essential in their lives. And I guess it appeals to my curious nature, and maybe I'm just nosy. These types of videos always provide me with a ton of inspiration, loads of great ideas, so hopefully this video can do the same for you. My name's Chris Harvey. I'm a professional photographer and videographer from North Wales. I've been a freelancer for over 5 years now, and we're going to cover a load of items today, some of which are going to be camera related, but these are just all things that I use on a fairly regular basis. I would say daily in a lot of instances. So let's dive into it. So let's start by talking about tech. I am now firmly part of the Apple ecosystem. Apple, thank you for taking all of my money. But if you've been watching this channel for a while, you might have noticed a few months ago, I did a video featuring the Google Pixel 9 Pro, and I was talking about it from a photography standpoint. And I didn't last very long with that phone. I thought I wanted a phone that was very, very photography centric, and I wanted the sort of best that I could get. But after a few months, I realized that I don't really use my phone for photography that often, and it's more important to be part of a very streamlined and efficient ecosystem when it comes to my tech. Because I'm an Apple computer user, I needed to have an iPhone. And I've had iPhones for years and years. I just decided to try something new, and it very much backfired. So I use the iPhone 16. This isn't the Pro, it's not the Max, it's just the normal, I guess like entry-level standard iPhone. The camera on it is great. It's fine. It's good for Instagram stories. I can edit stuff on here using Lightroom Mobile. It's just a phone that kind of does what it needs to do. It has AirDrop, and that's probably the most important thing about all of this, is just having the ability to transfer files like photos and videos from my computer to my phone. Now, paired with my iPhone is my kind of everyday computer, and that is the new M4 MacBook Pro. This is the 512 gigabyte internal storage, 16 gigabyte RAM. It's pretty much like their entry level MacBook Pro, but I actually have found this to be just super capable as a computer. I edit all of these YouTube videos, and I do most of my photo editing on this computer because it is portable. Now, some of you might be saying that the 512 gigabyte internal storage on the MacBook Pro is probably not enough if I'm doing loads of commercial videography work, shooting things in 4K, you know, that's going to eat up that memory pretty quickly. But I get around that because I edit everything on an SSD, an external SSD, and I use these Samsung T7s. My kind of workflow in terms of, I guess, like current projects and backing up and file management is something that I'll probably do a separate video on, but I basically carry one of these in my bag at all times because I always have this one for current projects that I'm working on. So if I'm doing any commercial work, if I'm working on a video, I film everything, back everything up onto this SSD, and I work off of this. The read and write speeds on it are really quick. Yes, I could just import the footage onto the Mac and it might be slightly quicker, but I don't notice any, slowdown in performance. And then once I finish the project, I just move the files from this SSD to my backup archive hard drive, which lives in my office. And that's kind of my everyday workflow. So if I'm working at home, if I'm working out in a cafe, I just have everything that I need on here, accessible at all times. Now, my philosophy with tech is that it has to be frictionless, it has to be efficient, and it's not allowed to cause me any headaches and problems. That's why the Apple ecosystem works well for me, because everything is just kind of connected and everything works. But the reason for that is because I don't necessarily consider myself as a particularly techie person. I use the tech that I need to do the work, but I really like analog things just in general. This will become a theme for some of the essentials that I mentioned. So let's talk about some of those things. And the first of those is notebooks. Notebooks are just wonderful things. Now, you might be saying I could just make notes on my phone and have that sync with, Apple Notes on my Mac, and I absolutely do use that from time to time. But there are just so many instances where I prefer just jotting things down in notebooks. I think I'm just worried about losing things on my phone and things not syncing between devices. And I know if I make a note in this notebook, it's not going anywhere. And this notebook lives in my bag, so I know it's not going to go missing. So if I ever have, just any kind of like meetings, if I'm just meeting with friends and chatting about creative ideas, or if I'm just out and about and something sort of strikes me, whether that's a video idea or like a concept for a shoot, then I'll just always grab these little field notes. And I mean, these are so cool. This is just one of 3 that I have. It's part of a collection that I think is the American, is it like the National Parks collection perhaps? Just really cool, interesting designs. I like the colors. It's very me. But I have one of these on the go. This is kind of like my work one for all of my client work. I have another one which I use for kind of like YouTube ideas and stuff in that vein. And then I just have a bigger notebook, which is something that I just use for kind of like journaling and just writing down sort of more long form ideas. This is very much just kind of like snapshots. And if I want to flesh things out, I typically use a bigger notebook for that. I've also experimented a lot with journaling this year. So every morning I like to just write down a couple of pages, whether that's just like how I'm feeling, things that I want to achieve, reflecting on, the previous day and sort of, how I'm feeling about work and life and all those good things. I think the trouble with living a creative life is that so much of your kind of life is consumed internally. It's all mental. I'm just constantly thinking about stuff. And I found journaling to be a really helpful way of just kind of clearing my mind and just putting things to paper. Really helps with that. I also take one of these notebooks out with me if I'm ever doing any sort of like landscape photography and any personal work. If I'm taking a particular photo, I like to take a few minutes to just reflect on how I'm feeling about the photo at the time, because that can often influence how I edit the photo and treat the photo afterwards. I think it's so easy to take a photo, get home, and then when you open it up maybe a few days later, you almost don't remember what you were thinking or what you were feeling at the time of taking the photo. And that's why I just make a few little notes, and then it helps me just kind of get back into the mindset of what I was feeling or what I was looking at when I was taking the image in the field. Just helps me feel a bit more connected to the images that I take, and I think the edits and the end result of that image is kind of more aligned with what I was kind of pre-visualizing at the time. Now for me, creativity cannot happen without coffee. Anybody who has watched the channel for a while will know that coffee is a big part of my life. It's actually a big part of the commercial work that I do. I photograph a lot of businesses within the specialty coffee industry. I work with coffee shops and roasteries and create content. And because of that, I'm a very highly caffeinated individual. And I always like to have coffee at some point in my day, especially in the mornings, but I'm definitely like a 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day kind of guy. At the moment, I am really enjoying this coffee, which is by Cracked Coffee, which is a coffee roastery here in North Wales. It's just amazing, and I am always on the lookout for new coffees. I drink this as kind of like filter or pour over or in an AeroPress. It's just really nice. They're a really lovely sort of family run company, and they make great stuff. So yeah, that is currently what I am drinking, and I really enjoy these little Yeti tumblers. For me, whenever I kind of go out to do photography, I normally make a coffee and take it with me on the drive, because going to photograph the landscape, sometimes I am driving for like an hour, maybe an hour and a half to some of the places that I like to visit regularly, and just having a nice coffee for the drive is it's just nice to have, isn't it? This is also great when I'm traveling. I'll take an AeroPress, take this little tumbler. It's insulated, so it keeps the coffee nice and hot. And whether you're kind of out camping or whether you're just using this as like a daily cup, just works. It's really, really good. Now my next essential is actually what I'm wearing. It's this jacket or a jacket like it. And the reason that that is important is because for me, I just always have stuff, right? It's like if I'm out on a shoot, I have filters, I have like microphones, I have lens caps, and for me, I don't want to keep going in and out of my bag all the time. So I always wear a shacket if I'm out on a shoot, because I can just fill the pockets and it's easily accessible. Like with tech, it's all about a frictionless experience for me. And this one is from A Day's March, which is a Scandinavian brand. And it's a sort of herringbone design, it's really sort of thick cotton, really soft, really comfortable. And I have a few different jackets from, all sorts of different brands. But it's nice to just have a uniform that you don't need to think about, and it's just something that you throw on every day, and it just kind of becomes a part of who you are. So yeah, don't underestimate the convenience of just having things in pockets. Now, my next essential is something that I wear every single day, and it is a mechanical watch. Watches is a bit of a hobby of mine. I've been really into watches for probably coming up to like 6 or 7 years now. And this is the Seiko SKX013. It's a mechanical wristwatch. It's completely automatic, doesn't run on batteries. And people say, oh, well, you could just like look at the phone, for the time. And I completely appreciate that that is a practical solution. But the reason that I wear a watch is because I don't always want to look at my phone. I think having a watch is really important as a photographer, especially if you're, out in the field, if you're doing like a sunset shoot or a sunrise shoot. Being mindful of the time is just something that is really important. I think time and photography kind of go hand in hand, really. And for me personally, like I was mentioning about just wanting a bit more of like an analog experience, I think that's why I'm always drawn to wristwatches. For me, I don't want to be going in and out of my bag. I don't want to be sort of pulling my phone out of my pocket. I just want to be able to sort of focus on photography and what I'm doing at that time. So being able to glance at my wrist and, just have the time available, it's quite nice. Plus, I just think watches are great things to look at. It's like just the design, the aesthetic. I like to just like fiddle with the bezel. You hear that? Very, very satisfying. So this is a photography channel, so I should mention cameras. So the camera that I'm actually filming on now is the Lumix S5 II. It's my main camera for all of my videography and commercial photography work. But I want to say that it's kind of like my everyday carry sort of camera. It's basically kind of like my work camera. If I'm talking about photography for fun, then I'm more likely to carry a 35mm film camera with me. And this is the Canon AE1. I just carry it with either a 50mm prime or a 28mm prime. And the two sort of favorite film stocks that I typically gravitate to is Kodak Gold 200 for color and Ilford HP 400 for black and white stuff. So, these two together. So I think these two film stocks kind of broadly cover my taste in terms of how I like my images to look. I think the main reason that I shoot film instead of taking digital cameras with me all the time is because I find digital photography can be a little too immersive at times. We can end up being a little bit snap happy and just spend all of our time looking at LCD screens. And I think with a film camera, it just enables you to be more present in the moment. Find something to photograph, take a quick snapshot, and then just kind of get on with your day, get on with your life, instead of worrying about the photography too much. So yeah, really enjoyed carrying a film camera around for the last sort of 18 months or so. That will definitely continue. Now finally, I want to talk about how I carry a lot of stuff around, and I'm going to talk about these two carry cases. So these are both by a brand called Grams 28. I actually did some photography work for them years ago. They were one of the first clients that I had. They make beautiful leather products, and I sort of received these as payment for sort of doing that photo shoot. So I have this small pouch, which is just like a leather Ziploc. It has this kind of front compartment, which is just useful for keeping things like memory cards or spare batteries or, pens, whatever it might be. It's just kind of like a hold-all that I just throw into my bag, and it kind of keeps all of the small little bits that just kind of always go missing. That's a kind of really nice solution for that. And then this bigger one is just my laptop sleeve. So again, two compartments on the inside, so you can put a laptop in there and a notebook, and then it has a few sort of internal pockets where I keep pens and dongles and that sort of stuff. And speaking of pens, the best pens in the world for anybody who's interested is a Muji 0.5mm in black. It's got to be black. I can't write in anything that isn't black. But these Muji pens are just amazing to write with. They're really cheap as well. I bought like a bag of like 20 of these, and I always just have them in sort of like these cases, in my backpack, in my office, and they're just a delight to write with. As you know, because I do a lot of journaling and write stuff down in notebooks all the time, having a pen that's nice to write with, I think, is super important. it will inspire you to write stuff down. So yeah, choosing the right pen is not to be underestimated. So try these Mujis out. You will love them. So there we have it. Those are most of the things that I deem essential for living a creative life. I hope you enjoyed them. Let me know down in the comments the things that you love the most, that you carry with you all the time, and that make a difference to your life and to your creativity. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next week for another video.